state of California's economy has grown weaker. I'm sure everyone in this room has had to give up something they love or benefit from because of the economic downturns. One of these many luxuries might include elective art programs offered in the public school system. Though it has been proven by many statistics and researchers that these programs are entirely beneficial to students, they are viewed as a luxury from an economic perspective. My opponent claims that the withdrawal of these art programs from the school system has a negative effect on the academics of the students. Although that can be true, the reasons behind the budget cuts are not focused on how they affect the students. They are due to lack of money because of the poor economy. These cuts are due to our state's economic deficit. Regardless of how beneficial these programs are, the state of California continues to cut our programs because our economy cannot afford them. Although one might assume that decreasing the salaries of our students and administrators is an easier solution with less of an impact on academics, teachers in the school districts have already suffered enough because of the recession. And even though these programs benefit the students' social skills, as my opponent claims, core classes such as math, English, science, and history should be the students' first priority. If you are someone who is enrolled in a public school within the past 5 years, you may have noticed some changes. Classrooms are forced to hold more students, and teachers have been receiving pink slips. Zach Caldevier, the communications director of the Consumer Federation of California, states that since the start of the recession, over 23,000 teachers have been laid off in California. So when my opponent says that the teachers are paid too much money and cutting salaries is an easy way out, I'd have to deny this claim, because as you can see, our teachers are suffering enough. Now that I've talked about how teachers have lost their jobs altogether, I'd like to point out that school districts that offer their teachers a higher salary also offer art programs that the children benefit from. And districts with lower paying salaries towards their teachers are the ones that don't have the art programs. I spoke with a representative of Pinocha Elementary School District, a district where teachers earn an average of $35,000 a year, and California's average teacher should earn about $65,000 a year. Pinocha Elementary School does not offer any art classes and has a music teacher that meets with them only once a week. As you can see, teachers with a lower salary usually teach in a school that literally cannot afford extra art classes. I spoke with a representative from the Montecito School District, and she said that their schools all offer extra art and music classes for their students. Teachers in the Montecito School District are also paid an average of $99,000 a year. And so with this information, I've concluded that the districts that can afford to pay their teachers above the average of what California teachers should be paid also offer art programs. And so the districts that cannot afford to pay their teachers even the average are the schools that don't offer the art programs. So if a school doesn't offer a mere art class and pays their staff below the average salary, is it really fair to continue to decrease the salaries just to have these classes put in? Definitely not. My opponent also claims that the art programs benefit the students' social skills. This is true. Students are more likely to volunteer, vote, keep a job, and develop self-confidence. But although the facts are accurate, it's important to remember how our economy is suffering, and social skills, although they are important, are not a priority. Before we set aside time and money for character-building art programs, students need to be taught basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. To elaborate on this, I would like to talk about something that I'm sure we are all more than familiar with, the California High School Exit Exam. To graduate high school in the state of California, you have to pass this exam, and So it doesn't matter what grades you have or what grades you have, how many credits you have. If you don't pass the California High School Exit Exam, you don't graduate high school. And this exam covers math and reading and writing, and it does not cover social skills. So as you can see then, to have social skills forcefully put into the school systems when we cannot afford them would be insufficient, I would say. Social skills can be developed in classrooms that teach any subject. Candy Lawson, PhD, the writer of Social Skills in Schools, gives a list of how to build social skills beyond art classes. She states, pairing a socially inept child with a socially adept child, involving children in cooperative instead of competitive learning exercises, identifying and acknowledging the strengths of all children, understanding social weaknesses, and creating an environment in which diversity is accepted and esteemed, and celebrated, can greatly enhance all children's social abilities. So you see, although art classes help build character and social skills, there are plenty of other ways we can build social skills for the children. So overall, I would like to thank my opponent for her recognition of how important art classes are to students, but I'd also like to remind everybody that the cuts in art classes are due to California's economic downturn. And when we climb out of this recession, we can consider bringing the classes back to the schools that are missing them. Thank you.
All right, you give us some good general background, and I kind of like the idea of the counterclaim that you're presenting, that the causality really has to do not with the rejection of arts as a subject, but because of the budget issues. And I understand that. I do think that there are a couple of places where you have some good responses here to these concepts, but the language that you use needs to be a little bit sharper so that your claim is clear. For instance, on the very last point, when you're presenting that study about how the kids can be mixed in, between the outgoing and the more reticent, the declarative claim here is simple. There are alternative ways to develop social skills which don't require the art programs, or that the benefits of the art programs can be replaced by alternative techniques. Something simple and direct like that. You give these long descriptions and explanations, and then you've got a quote talking about that, and then kind of at the end you sort of explain what it means, which is all fine, and it'll look great in a paper, but you know what? In a speech you need to be simple and to the point, and I think there are a couple of places where that's the problem. Generally, I think you take the right tone with the argument, but you need to kind of sharpen the secondary claims a little bit more. There's not really an attempt to refute the advocate's claims, but you might want to diminish them a little bit more. You mentioned, for instance, that we have to work on core skills like reading and writing and mathematics, and you mentioned the exit exam. Well, one of the things that I think would be necessary to make it clear that we are focusing on those core things. Have we continued to pass the exit exams at the same levels? Has there been a decline in those because of the cuts in the arts programs? If we don't see that and we're maintaining this, then the schools are basically meeting their responsibility. And as unfortunate as it is that we can't have those kinds of things, that is the priority that we need to have. Sometimes you're dancing on the edge of a value claim here, but you have the right idea. All right, thank you. I just want to mention, folks, I do notice a lot of laptops open, and sometimes it looks like people are texting, which I don't think is entirely appropriate. I'm sure that most of you don't want to be rude to your classmates, and I understand if you're doing something that's really productive, but when your classmates are speaking, I would really appreciate your focus on them. They're not doing this just for me. They're doing this for all of you, and it's only reasonable that you give them as much attention as possible. I know most of you, you think, I'm just in here for a couple of seconds. I am paying attention, and I don't have any way of tracking that. All I have is, when I turn around and see people looking down at their laptops while somebody's giving the speech, that's the only information